taking the time to do this with us today. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
So we'd just like to start off kind of broadly and talking about the relationship between City Hall and the LGBT community, how it stands now, and what you would do to strengthen it.
Well, I think it's stayed strong, notwithstanding the mayor's, particular singular lack of a relationship. It's almost as if he sought not to have one, which is very bizarre and not to be repeated. But I think the relationship with the rest of City Hall has been okay, and maybe better than okay. But obviously, the lack of a sort of good, productive, cordial, I'll call it, relationship with the mayor has been a serious omission of the last number of years, and so I would certainly hope to to rectify that. And I have a sense sometimes that the relationship between the whole city and the LGBTQ community has become one that's sort of focused on pride, because everybody knows about pride and most people celebrate it, with the exception of Mayor Ford and a few others.
How do you prevent the roadblocks from the past in terms of getting public transportation initiatives actually implemented from happening in your case? Like, how will you prevent?
I think it's why I emphasize so much in my own campaign the crucial importance of being able to work with the city council, because you need a majority of them to support anything you're going to do that's a city initiative, and the other two governments. Because in the end, when it comes to something like public transportation and Smart Track, the other two governments are going to have to pay for 2/3 of it, as they always have with major transportation initiatives. And the city council has to support it. And so I think, if I could give you the short answer, it's don't act like Rob Ford.
In terms of LGBT youth and mobilizing them to vote, I mean, they face a lot of issues as it is, youth does, and LGBT youth specifically. How do you let them know that voting in this election is something to be done?
Well, I say all the time to all young people that, the reality is, and it's not just some kind of a trite expression you use, that the decisions we're making today are for the city that those young people will kind of inherit as middle-aged people by the time a lot of these things are done. The decisions you make about transit and about attracting jobs to the city and about, human rights and about even having, the village as a more sort of well-defined destination in the city. These are all things you can start on today and should, but, you won't see the full benefit of them for a number of years. And so the biggest reason I could see for people to engage themselves is because it is what they're going to inherit as their city. And so if I was the younger people inheriting the city, sort of going forward from those of us who are a bit older, I would be outraged and very activist about this and saying, look, I demand that you take action now to do something as bold as the Smart Track. And I think of the Smart Track proposal that I put forward, and it has people taking some pot shots at it, but it's bold. And it does something big in a short period of time, because I think we have to do something big. And I would be wanting to come forward on something like that if I was young and say, I wish I was young for many reasons, but I'd be saying, no, we insist that you act on this now. And we're only going to vote for somebody who's pledging to act on this now because we think it's so urgent. And I believe that in my heart.
For a city, what does it do to have a mayor that is unequivocally and openly supportive of the LGBT community compared to what we've been experiencing for the past 4 years?
Well, I think it starts with respect. I mean, I think your job as the mayor is to respect and indeed to embrace every citizen of Toronto.
Right. So if you had one last key message for the city's LGBT population and communities, what would it be for this upcoming election?
That you have a huge amount to contribute to the building up of this city, and that I want you to play a full role every single day, not just at Pride time. I mean, for example, there was a special forum group, I think, that met over at the City Hall before World Pride because it was World Pride. And I'd say, well, why do we not want to continue with that? Like, even though we're not having World Pride next year, let's have that group sitting there all the time and saying, what can we do to respect this community, to support it to the extent it needs support that's different than other communities, and then what can we do to kind of say in return, what can you do to build up our city? And so if it was one message, I would say that's the kind of mayor I'm going to be, because I want the city to be even greater. The world is watching us here to see if we are as good as we say we are, and I think we are pretty good, but we have to be better. I just want people to know that that's the kind of leadership that I'll bring to City Hall, and that's as it should be. That's what the job's about.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.